we can hear you.
I can hear you, Michelle.
We can hear you, Michelle.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me in the boardroom?
We can hear you in the boardroom. Can you hear me?
Can the boardroom hear Michelle and Kelly?
They can't hear us.
Can you hear now?
Can you hear now, Kelly? Michelle?
Yes, I can hear now.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
I think we're set.
Okay, can you hear me too?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear, Michelle.
Okay, good. Am I running this thing?
Yes, Susan had another meeting, and so she couldn't make it.
Okay, I'm going to call the Lane Transit District Board of Directors Real Estate Committee to order, please. With roll call, I see Kelly and Michelle is here as well. And I don't know who's taking this next because I don't think
So
I have an agenda.
we just have any public comment?
Okay, do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, no public comment, so whatever's next on the agenda, I'm gonna hand it over to that person.
All right, Michelle, one item on the agenda is the Hunsaker Property Future Development Opportunities. And Joe McCormick was not able to join us today, so Dave Roth will be handling that presentation. Dave?
Thanks, Jameson. Good afternoon, members of the Real Estate Subcommittee. I'm Dave Roth, Senior Director of Planning and Policy. And yes, I'll be filling in for Joe today, and I'm going to run you through a presentation on the Hunsaker property. Thanks, Norma. All right, great. So I'm going to proceed to our first slide. So today we'd like to discuss and get your input on pursuing a couple of concurrent tasks related to the Hunsaker site. These include a proposed refinement plan amendment and a transit-oriented development visioning process so LTD can remove a limiting development constraint on the site while also at the same time building a shared vision for the future of the Hunsaker property. The first task would begin the process of relieving a narrow land use restriction pertaining to the building footprint size on the site. And the second task is to start a shared visioning process with the board and the surrounding neighborhood and residents so we can move forward with clear goals. Next slide. So why this discussion now? The proposed amendment I mentioned creates development flexibility, while the visioning process helps to ensure that that flexibility is tied to the board, neighborhood, and broader community goals. If we only pursue the amendment alone, it could cause some risk or perceptions that LTD is removing a neighborhood protection without a clear purpose. If LTD only does the visioning, the final vision may still be constrained by an outdated and too restrictive building footprint limitation. Now I'm going to cover a little bit of the site overview and history. I'll keep the history brief, but it does matter for this conversation. So if you've been around for a while, you know that we've had quite a bit of involvement here. This site was the former location of the Santa Clara Elementary School, which was closed in 2002. The vacant school building was destroyed by arson in 2005, and then the property was then part of the Santa Clara Crossings proposed development back in 2009, and then again in 2012, both of which failed to move forward. The foreclosed property was acquired by LTD in 2015 with the transit station built on the southern part of the site in 2021. The restrictions we are discussing today were tied to that earlier land use history and neighborhood concerns regarding big box style development, not to a current LTD development concept, of which there is none at this point. So the current constraint, the specific restriction is the 18,000 square foot individual building footprint cap on the site. Section 6A from the River Road Santa Clara Urban Facilities Plan, a refinement plan that is currently on the books, describes that restriction as well as some other restrictions on the site. The important point is that addressing this narrow restriction does not mean removing every community protection or approving a project. We're not even close to that yet. But it would create flexibility around the viability and site planning while leaving other conversations for the visioning and later development process, those being things like specific uses, design, access, housing, neighborhood fit, et cetera. Next slide. So if we were to pursue the refinement plan amendment, there is a process involved. This is a type 4 land use decision with the City of Eugene. And it would follow a formal refinement plan amendment that, again, follows a standard prescribed process, including pre-application and neighborhood meeting, preparation of application and findings, city completeness and formal review, planning commission hearing, and then finally city council hearing. So this is the type of a decision that goes all the way up to the city council and has multiple points of engagement with the public and opportunities for public comment along the way. We estimate the process to make this change to the refinement plan to take about a year, anywhere from 9 to 12 months or so. All right. Now let's talk about a transit-oriented design or development strategy aligned with other goals. In this case, state housing goals, as well as LTD's outcomes work. So the main point is that TOD is not just a real estate strategy, it's one way LTD can align a transit-adjacent public asset, the site, the empty site, with housing, workforce, health, and education access outcomes. Eugene's current housing work points to a significant production gap, so a transit-accessible site like Hunsaker should or could be evaluated through that lens of housing need. And you'll see on the slide here just a note on the housing need identified in Eugene's housing work right now, suggesting we need more than 26,000 homes over the next 20 years, about 1,600 dwellings annually, which would be a big increase of where we're at right now. Yes. Yep. Yes. Transit-oriented development, or TOD, the acronym itself. Basically is a way of aligning development goals or specific projects with transit. And the idea there is that you are leveraging either the land use side or the transit side to achieve mutual benefits. So in this case, for Hunsaker, we have established one of our largest transit centers in our network, the Santa Clara Transit Center, and we have an empty site next door. That presents a prime opportunity for a transit-oriented development style project where LTD could achieve mutual benefits that are shared with both the nearby neighborhood and the broader city. So in this case, I used the housing example. But in LTD's case, we would or could realize more ridership by having the right type of transit-oriented development adjacent to the transit center. So hopefully that paints a little bit of a picture. And TOD is nothing new. This is something that you see across the country, nationwide, North America, all over the place. And I'll go over some specific examples that might help illustrate what that could look like here in a moment. Here we go. So one of these in particular is a very specific TOD example. So this slide gives us a few relevant examples, not as direct templates for Hunsaker, but just comparables for us to reference as we're sort of thinking about the realm of possibility here. Each of these projects here on the screen has different ownership structure, funding approach, and neighborhood context. But what they have in common is that the public or institutional land is part of that development proposal or process. So the first one is the Gresham Library site, which was a partnership between TriMet and Multnomah County in Gresham. And this one was a TriMet site, a former park and ride location owned by TriMet that was repositioned for a civic anchor, the library itself. And in this case, the land was publicly owned and ownership was transferred permanently as part of the development proposal. And I believe this one was fair market value for the land. So there was no subsidy or discount for this particular example. The next one is the North Butterfly lot, a little bit closer to us in Eugene. This is the downtown public parcel that was advanced through a request for qualifications or RFQ that was run by the city for housing and pedestrian connections between civic districts. This one was public ownership of the land that is in the process of being transferred to the developer. And I do believe that there are some subsidies in place for that project. The next example is the Springfield and Dev Northwest project on 52nd Street in Springfield. This was a small public site that was packaged for 6 income qualified townhomes using, oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot here, Joe, the CLT model, and I apologize, I do not have the acronym for that one. But this one is an example where the land was transferred at a deeply discounted rate to the affordable housing developer to achieve these affordable housing outcomes. And the last example is slightly different, and this one has been long talked about. It's not moving forward yet, but the idea here is the University of Oregon Romania property, which is adjacent to our Walnut station on the MX line near the University of Oregon. This would be retained public ownership where the University of Oregon retains ownership and then uses a ground lease for a development. So a developer would come in and lease that land from the university while also doing the development project. We've not seen this project move forward yet, but it's still being planned. So anyhow, the takeaway for Hunsaker is that we don't need to define the final development concept today. We need a process that creates flexibility for LTD while also building shared expectations around what success should look like. And that's why we're recommending this dual path process of doing the refinement or the changes to the refinement plan to remove that building size restriction, but then also doing the visioning work in collaboration with the board and the community. So here are the options as we see them today. This is a basic decision tree. So LTD could hold the property, amend the restriction only, or pursue the vision only. And our recommendation is to follow, again, this concurrent path where we're doing both things. So removing that restrictive land use requirement. I will just mention that there had been some discussion over the last year and a half, 2 years around the why doing a project on this site. And this was one of the restrictions that sort of hung up that project. So this is one of those things that can make this site more viable for future development. Again, so our recommendation here, and we'd like to hear feedback from the committee, is to initiate the refinement plan amendment. Again, that's about a year-long process to go through, ultimately requiring city council approval, and then concurrently starting this collaborative visioning process, and then come back later on with a development strategy for the site. So that concludes my presentation, and interested to hear feedback and discussion.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kelly.
What happens if we receive an offer on the property in the meantime while this refinement process is going on?
Yeah, that would, certainly that could happen. We have received some interest in the site. I might turn to Jameson to see if he has any comments on on what we would do.
Yeah, I don't think that we've received any other interest on this site since the YMCA. I think it's been more on River Ave, the River Ave site, I want to say.
We might have gotten one,
Did we get one?
yes, but I think was their intent for the property was not consistent with the restrictions that are on it. So I think if we received an offer and the work was ongoing and we wanted to pursue a sale agreement, we'd have to address that within the agreement. You know, they might want that work to be done before closing or something like that, but I don't think it would be a problem if that happened.
And I'm sorry, what was the anticipated cost? It was 30,000, is that what I saw?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And where do those funds come from as far as budget?
I might ask Randy, since she's here. Randy, do you know where that's programmed in the budget? I believe we talked.
General fund,
Yeah,
I
general
believe.
fund. And coming out of the planning studies line item, I think is what we had talked about.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And then have there been any conversations with city staff to understand or get a feel for any opposition to working through this and coming to the outcome we're looking for?
Joe and I have had multiple conversations with city staff over the past year, and I think that the proposal here to follow this dual track approach is designed to mitigate for any opposition. We do have some concerns about going through the removal of the restriction on its own without having that direct conversation and engagement with the community.
Okay.
So then it takes about a year, costs about $30,000. I'm assuming at that point, we would do another appraisal of the property and we might be able to garner some of that back in an appraisal?
Yeah, the removal of that restriction should make development more viable. So yeah, I believe we'd get it appraised again after that point.
Well, I think this definitely opens up our options, which is not a bad thing. If we're comfortable with the $30,000 cost as far as budget impact. I mean, any of these conversations working through with the planning commission and this city council, you know, the final decision is whatever they determine that decision will be. So it could not work out in the way we intended and we would have spent the $30,000. So I'm just putting that out there as a possibility.
And further, it would make the property less viable and less attractive if it was known that it couldn't be lifted.
Yeah, Jameson just asked me about some current legislation. So we don't know an exact timeline here, but with some of the new state land use laws that are being put into place, we do anticipate that these types of refinement plan restrictions will go away, but that could be 3 years from now, it could be 5 years from now. There's no real clear timeline on that. And there's fairly broad acknowledgement that these types of restrictions are basically prohibiting or restricting the type of development that needs to happen in cities anyway. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I would just add that very likely, like what was in the deal with the Ys, this was a condition to closing. And so then, you know, you get far in the deal and you've expended time for sure, and then some expense. And if that condition to closing is not satisfied, then you're not closing. And so there are risks in either way. And so while the risk is that the city council might not approve the change, if the change if you don't go forward with the change, we're in a similar position to what we were in before, because a lot of for the size of the property that it is, like a lot of the feedback we've heard is that square footage restriction could be prohibited for what developers want to do. So there's risk on both sides.
Well, I'd be in favor of moving forward with the dual plan to seek refinement and start the visionary work with the board and the community.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree there is risk either way, but I think if this offers us an opportunity to open some flexibility at the end of this process, it's probably worth taking a stab at it and going that route.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it has the possibility of making the property much more valuable.
Okay. Well, we hear that direction, and we'll be bringing this to the board as well. But we wanted to get the will of the committee to see what the reaction was, and then we'll bring it back to you again. But just wanted to have this conversation first.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Is that the only item for this
Yes.
meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. That was the only item on the agenda for this meeting.
Okay.
Great.
If there are no other questions or comments, then I think we can go ahead and adjourn.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you. Bye.
Take care.